The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 134 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Tuesday, November 12th, 2019. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. But, James, we're not alone tonight.
Not alone. There's a third wheel tonight.
We have, well, it's not a third wheel. Come on.
Well, I mean,
We have a guest host tonight, Ben Lutrario, one of our patrons from the Super Speedway. Ben, how is it going tonight?
It's going all right, Eric and James. I'm just kind of staying out of the cold.
All right, we'll talk a little bit about ISM Raceway and the playoffs and championship weekend, but let's talk to Ben here for a second. Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into NASCAR, and how did you find us?
Well, honestly, I had a friend in high school that was a big NASCAR fan, and I used to give her a hard time because I really didn't understand the sport and kind of just thought it was kind of boring to see people go left. But I studied it and saw how hard the athletes work to set the cars up on the racetrack and how much effort they put into the week, and kind of got hooked on it by watching the Daytona 500 in 2014. I guess ever since that, I've pretty much been a fan. So that's how I got into NASCAR.
that's pretty cool, man, because, you know, when people don't like NASCAR, I have always found it hard to get them to come around to it. So I guess what was it? You explained that it was the athletes and seeing how these guys perform. But have you been to an event in person? Is there anything else that kind of cued you into, man, this is really cool?
I've been to Richmond about 8 times, but
Nice.
My mom has a friend and she goes to a lot of the races, and she said the only way you'll get hooked to it is if you actually visit one of the races and just see it for yourself in person on how everybody operates there, and I guess how fast the cars are and what I guess skill goes into actually performing at the level they do.
That really is definitely something that, like, you know, as great of a job as they do on TV coverage and showing you every aspect of the race, there's just nothing like being there. There's just something special about even the views aren't as good. It's not, you don't have the access, I guess, when you're there that you have when you're watching on TV, but it's just still something that makes it better about being there in person. I guess that's true of all sports, but it really is definitely true of our sport.
Well, I've always thought of NASCAR as you can see it on TV and you can hear it a little bit on TV, but when you're there in person, it's what you feel. You feel it. You can feel it, you know, in the hollows of your body, you know.
Right.
I would agree with that because when I took one of my friends there, he had never been to one, and I said, wait until the restart or first restart happens, and then you'll feel it in your chest. He's like, oh, I don't believe you. And then the cars came around. He's like, oh, well, by the way, Ben, I can feel it in my chest. I was like, told you.
Still,
Exactly. Yep.
my favorite part of every weekend still is that start when you got 40 cars or, 32 cars or whatever they run in the truck series now, blasting into turn one, and this pack of cars, it just doesn't, it's something, man. It's amazing. I get chills talking about it.
I can't agree more.
All right, let's talk about ISM Raceway. Speaking of chills and excitement, we didn't really have a lot of that this weekend in Phoenix.
Well, Ben may have, though, because, well, I'll let him tell you when we get there. But yeah, it was, as far as racing is concerned, it was rough. Let's put it that way.
You know, and I saw the reports or heard the people talking about it, and for some reason, I kind of felt like it was better than I expected. I mean, that still doesn't mean it was good, but it was better than I expected it. Like they definitely tried to put in the extra work at Phoenix to get something that works well. Looking forward toward next year, I think, to see if maybe there was some way to, scrape this package together and make it work as a championship race next year. But man, I think they've got to change something for this. But
yeah, they got a long way to go.
yeah, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Denny Hamlin, Gets it done this weekend, man. He basically had to win this race to get into the playoffs or to get in the Final Four, to continue his playoff run, continue what is so far been a career year for Denny Hamlin, and he gets it done. He runs well in the race, dominates the thing, 143 laps led, and gets the win. Moves on to Homestead, along with two of his JGR teammates and Kevin Harvick. So. James, take us away on this because you've got some questions here on the show notes, and they're good questions. I want you to throw those out there for us.
So, Denny Hamlin, I mean, must-win race. It probably, I feel like it's one of the biggest wins of his career. But I'm going to ask one of his big fans, Ben. Ben, where do you rank this for Denny Hamlin on as far as the biggest wins of his career?
I'd say other than the 2 Daytona 500s, and I have to say. The race yesterday in Phoenix had to be his top one because it put him into the playoffs. I guess must win. I guess all the chips were on the table, so I guess he had to put it all out there. And I guess his effort obviously gave him enough to get him to the finish line, get him to Homestead.
Yeah, it was a fantastic day for him. He was on one, I think, from the start, Eric. He just was untouchable. I think Kyle, one of the reporters was talking to Kyle Larson after the race, and they said, what could we have done? I think they were kind of referring to the rules package. And Larson said, yeah, you had to slow that 11 car down because he was on one. I agree with Ben that I think this is probably let me put an asterisk on this. Depending
You're going
on
where
how
I was going to go.
Yeah, depending on what happens on Sunday, this I think could be the biggest win of his career. The Daytona 500s are pinnacle wins for this guy.
Yeah.
But the only other race I can remember recently with this playoff format that was similar to this was Brad Keselowski at Talladega a few years ago. Similar situation, must win. Going into Dega, must win. And Denny Hamlin in the same spot. The way Kyle Busch was running, Joey Logano was still having a pretty good day. But Denny held them all off, and his career season gets to continue.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, James. We'll know whether this is the biggest win in his career after Sunday at Homestead. If he wins the championship, by far, this outweighs I'd say it outweighs both Daytona 500s combined if he can get the win this weekend. If not, it's still a big win, but I'd have to rank those 500 wins a little bit above it. But
I think so.
This is redemption for Denny Hamlin. He had a chance to race for the championship against Jimmy Johnson, had a really rough day that day. And gets a chance to do it one more time. And in a career that people counted Hamlin out, man. They expected him to be done.
Well, I'll say really quick, the way he was talking at the press conference, was it before? It was on Saturday, I believe. And I don't know if you guys heard his comments about, he even said, I'm okay with being the next Mark Martin. Mark had a pretty good career.
Right.
And I don't know if he was playing possum a little bit, but he sure as heck didn't race like he was okay with just being Mark Martin. There was a championship on the line. So.
Yeah, definitely. It is Denny Hamlin's first Phoenix win since 2012. Again, dominating performance, 143 laps led. Joey Logano was next with 93 laps led. And, had a decent day going to start with, then kind of had everything in Kyle Busch's hands, and it didn't work out for him. Joey Logano knocked out of the Final Four, will not get a chance to run this season for his second championship in a row. James, interesting stat you've got here in the notes. I want you to read that one for us.
Yeah, so the decade that is the 2010s, this will be the first time that we have not had a back-to-back champion in the history of the sport. Every decade that NASCAR has run has seen at least one back-to-back champion. So we will not see that this year. I thought that was kind of fascinating. And Denny Hamlin, if he can win this championship, we'll have another first-time winner. So we've got a lot on the line for these championships going forward here.
For sure. Ben, anything to add on Joey Logano?
I think you picked. I'm actually have a question of I don't know what happened to the 22. I felt like his balance was really good after he won stage 2, and after that it kind of just fell apart, like you said, Eric.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've seen anything. I know I heard on the broadcast they were talking about that they thought maybe the tires were on incorrectly or something was actually
Air-
off mechanically.
yeah. I heard air pressure. They made an adjustment. They needed to get the car tighter, and they thought by adding, I believe it was half a pound, that it would get the car right where Joey needed it. But it actually went the other direction on him, and he was too tight, started to fade. That was the best assessment that I had heard.
Joey, doesn't get in, doesn't have a great day in the end, but his day was still better than Chase Elliott, who has had the worst round of 8 of anybody probably in the history of the round of 8. Chase Elliott wrecks early, had a good car. I mean, he was running well. Definitely, I think, had a car that would have contended for the win. I don't know if he'd been able to do anything with Denny, but he was up there running with him and just blew it, man.
Yeah, that was he did race Denny pretty good there for a stretch.
Yeah.
But no, he didn't have as much form. But with a late race restart, heck, who knows? His round of 8 finishes, just for the record, 36, 32, 39. That is as bad as you're gonna get right there.
Right. I feel like there were 2 guys that could pass on Sunday. One of them was Chase Elliott. One of them was Denny Hamlin. And when Chase fell out, that was the end of our race, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. Ben, what were you thinking when? Because it looked like Chase was maybe Denny's number 1 contender. You had to be celebrating a little bit as a Denny fan, right?
I was a little bit, but Blaney, I thought he had a really good day as well. So he kind of made me nervous because I felt if any caution would come out, he had a chance to maybe get ahead of Denny. So I was kind of breathing a little bit hard there.
I mean, let's look at the results here too. I mean, we're sitting here talking about Denny and how good of a day he had, but if you really look at the top 10, I mean, your first 6 guys were all playoff guys. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney finished 3rd. Like Ben said, Blaney was really good throughout the day, ran up front all day. Skype's giving us some issues, dinging in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I can. And Kyle Larson comes home 4th. He was another one that needed to race his way in, and, he was there at the end. And if you watch that last restart, if he had another 2 laps, he'd have been right there in 2nd because he was blasting around people on the outside. Kevin Harvick finishes 5th, Martin Truex Jr. 6th, Eric Jones, the first non-playoff guy, in 7th place. So these guys, as usual, they all kind of, I don't know what is going on with Skype, but they all kind of, did what they needed to do at the end, as you kind of always expect with these playoffs. It's interesting how it happens that you end up with the top guys all together right at the end.
Yeah, it's high pressure situations, and these playoff drivers always seem to find a way to rise up to the top, even on a day when Denny Hamlin kind of had it covered. Anything can happen with these guys, and that late race restart that they had, when Denny took 2 tires on that last restart, I was actually wondering, if that was the right call or not. I felt like he probably could have took 4 and been okay.
I thought he threw it away. I thought, here we go, Denny Hamlin's going to be done because of this.
Yeah, what did you think about that one, Ben? When Denny took 2, because I'm kind of curious on your opinion there, because it kind of was a questionable call, don't you think?
I mean, maybe a little bit, but I felt like throughout the whole entire race, I didn't feel like tires really made a big difference for any of the cars. And Denny had to win the race, so I think he was just wanted to make sure he got out of pit road first to get all the clean air, and I just think he felt that was the best, chance for him to stay up front.
Yeah, I think the crew made the right call. We question crew chiefs from time to time and some of the strategies that they have, but they are the ones who know what tire wear looks like.
Right.
On these cars, and if the tires aren't wearing out and it makes sense to just drop 2 and stay out front, then absolutely, by all means, do it. That could have been somebody, if tire wear was a little bit different, that could have been somebody's big chance right there. But fortunately for Denny, he had it covered no matter what.
Yeah, I think we all like to sit here and act like we know everything that's going on, but there's a lot we don't know that these crews do. And, a lot of it comes down to, tires as an example, tire wear, fuel mileage. We'll sit there and we'll trust what they tell us on the broadcast is the fuel mileage, and it's always 10 miles further than what they tell us. So there's a lot of stuff we don't know going into it that, it comes back to surprise us a little bit at the end sometimes, and somehow we still get surprised every week and don't
Yeah.
expect it. So,
Well, and
go ahead.
the guys on TV, they've got a ton of data, but they don't have near the data that these teams are, putting into these cars. They know every little thing. Wasn't it last week at Texas where, Kevin Harvick, what was he doing? He was getting a little extra horsepower. Wasn't he dropping the
Yeah,
was he turning off the
he was
battery or
turning off
something?
the alternator.
That's it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that stuff.
Yeah, so those are those little tiny things that we would never even think about, that these teams have figured out ways to do these types of things. So
Right. Anything else worth discussing about Phoenix? We can talk a little bit about the track itself and the performance. But anything else about this race in particular before we hit on that?
Man, I don't think so. Ben, how
I'd
about
actually
you?
like to add that back to the two tire thing. Before the race, I heard that they were talking about Gabe Hart and Denny, and they said they were going to go into Phoenix with an aggressive game plan, and it felt like the two tires obviously would fit into a plan like that. So
That is aggressive.
I'm as a fan, I'm glad they stuck with their plan. They didn't deviate from it.
Yep. In the end, they look like the
that's a
smart
great
ones.
point.
They're the ones who made it work. So
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because you have to, shoot Denny Hamlin, everything's kind of on the line, and this is a career defining moment. So whatever they have been doing throughout this season that's been working, they know what they got to do. Be aggressive here, take a chance, or be conservative. And this race, it was kind of writing was on the wall. Be aggressive, and paid off for them totally.
definitely. Let's talk a little bit about Phoenix. We already kind of hit on a little bit. I guess maybe not Phoenix specifically, but because we're going to be here for the finals next season, Phoenix is going to be the one in the spotlight. NASCAR's got to change something, right? I mean, they can't keep this package going next year and expect this championship race to be what it's been at Homestead, right?
No, I think this package is it's broken on tracks. Phoenix isn't a short track, but it races kind of like one. This package isn't working. The PJ1 didn't do anything. These cars, I don't know if it's a Goodyear thing or an Aero thing, but we need something here, because we can't have as bad of a race as Martinsville was. Richmond's been pretty tough to watch at times. NASCAR's got to, if this is going to be the championship race, and this race had a lot of stakes, and without the stakes that we are, that we had going into this race, this would have been pretty rough as far as watching on TV is concerned. So yeah, NASCAR they've got to adjust something. They got to figure something out.
So what do? Just take the Aero off the car? I mean, I think chopping that spoiler off a ton on the back would be a big step.
I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier. We need, we can guess, but hopefully NASCAR is starting to put some sort of a game plan together. Ben,
the only thing that
of
scares me, before we go to Ben, the only thing that scares me is that Steve O'Donnell, when he's interviewed about it, still is non-committal about that they're even looking at changes. That's what concerns me. I mean, we're a couple months away from the 2020 season, and it won't be long after that we're running a short track. They need to have something figured out if they're going to do it soon, I would assume.
Yeah, you would think. I know they've got their eggs in the 2021 basket, with everything that's going to be changing with the new car, but hopefully they're not going to, I don't know, you can't have the type of racing we had on Sunday be what your championship race is next year, especially with how good Homestead has been for us. Homestead's consistently put on really great championship races. So we've got to see, I don't know, something. I'm hoping that they're thinking something, because I'm disappointed as a fan with what we saw at Martinsville specifically. That really bothered me a little bit. This doesn't bother me as much. I'm a little disappointed with how the race kind of looked. But again, it's, we're kind of hoping here at this point.
See, the thing is, I think if this race was any race, I'd be okay with how it played out. But the fact that it's going to be the championship race next year, and because we've seen such great racing at Homestead. I mean, last year's race I think was the worst race we've seen at Homestead in this championship format, and it was still a spectacular race. So I don't know. It's got a lot to live up to no matter where you go. I think Phoenix could. I don't know. I don't know if Phoenix could live up to it even with a good package, though.
Yeah, I'm still bummed that we're moving away from Homestead because it's been fair. I mean, it's been consistently very good. Then that's, but again, if NASCAR wants to move the date around a little bit and find some other venues, I'm okay with that. But we have to make sure we have a product that works.
All right. Anything to add, Ben?
I'm with you, Eric. I just feel like everything's too dependent on aero, and I think they need to figure out a way to, I guess, chop that damn
I like the passion.
spoiler off there and figure a way to just make the cars just operate better without so much dependency on the aero. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we always liked about short track racing is the aero didn't matter, and now it does, and that should be the sign that there's a problem.
Yep, we need cars that are able to pass each other. We need some turbulence somewhere. We need tire fall off. There's a lot of things I think we can say that we need, but yeah, Ben, that's a great point. It's something. We need something.
So before we get doom and gloom about next season, we've got a championship to decide. As a matter of fact, we have 3 championships to decide this weekend at Homestead Miami Speedway. Ford Championship weekend, the final Ford Championship weekend. We start with the Truck Series on Friday night. 4 drivers left: Stuart Friesen, James's favorite driver, Brett Moffitt, Ross Chastain, Matt Crafton. I think this is the toughest group. Well, okay, it's the second toughest group to figure out who's going to get the championship. Let's just do a roundtable. We won't do actual picks, but who do you think is going to get the pick? Ben, we're going to start with you. We'll throw it to you first. Who do you think is going to get the championship in the Truck Series on Friday night?
I got to give it to Ross Chastain. He's come out loaded for bear, it seems, this playoff. He's, I guess, putting his name out there, I think, and I think he wants to prove himself that he's making the right decision. And I just think he's been the best performing truck. Even though I don't really watch it too much, I hear that he is usually the best one of the toughest ones to beat in the truck. So I'm going to give it to Chastain.
All right. James, what do you think?
I like Chastain here too because I feel like he's on a mission. He saw an opportunity and switched his points distinction early in the season. He was running full-time Xfinity points, and then he saw this opportunity with this team, knew that they could win some races, and put it all together. And mission accomplished. I mean, the best you can do other than winning a championship in this series anymore is to make it to Homestead or make it to the championship 4 and give yourself the best shot possible. And mission accomplished, Ross Chastain. He made the right call. He's going to Homestead with a shot. I think he's probably Eric, I don't know if you'll agree with me on this one because there's one driver. Well, we've got a couple of champions in this round of 4, Moffitt and Crafton as well.
Right.
But Chastain, raw talent-wise, probably the best of the group. We've seen the biggest flashes from him. So I agree with Ben. I think we got to take a serious look at Chastain, but Brett Moffitt too. I think he did it last year. Let's see if he can do it again with a new team.
Well, and that's the thing. I like Chastain. Chastain's a good driver. I think I agree with you, James, that raw talent probably more than the other 3 here. But I don't think that's what's going to get it done. And I honestly, I think you guys are both wrong. I think Brett Moffitt repeats. I think he gets the championship this weekend. He's been strong in that truck this year. He is not in the underdog role this year. He's in a favorite role, I think. And I think he's shown before that he can live up to the pressure. He's run well in the playoffs. I think he's swept around, if I remember correctly. I think he's the guy to beat. Chastain's going to look pretty good. Crafton and Friesen, they're just there. I don't see anything from those two making a big run. I mean, Friesen's run well. He's only got the one win though. Well, 2 wins now, I guess.
Yeah, he's got 2 wins. I don't want to overlook Friesen because that team brings fast trucks.
That is true.
They bring fast trucks, and man, if they hit it on Friday night,
Yeah.
who knows
I just
if
don't
he's
think
untouched.
I don't think Friesen's going to be able to do it. I don't know. I don't think Friesen's going to handle the pressure. And Crafton just isn't Crafton anymore. He's something with that team, something with Crafton. It just hasn't been clicking. I think he's just there to fill out the final four. I don't expect much out of him.
The fact that he made
Yeah.
it through. He went through through a turbulent playoff. That's incredible.
Yep.
I mean, kudos to that team. They only have 6 top 5s on the season. And he was able to. He's kind of like that Ryan Newman from 2014. Kind of has no business being there, but he's there and he earned it.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So that takes care of the truck series. We next have the NASCAR Christopher Bell series. I mean, Xfinity series. Does anybody else have a shot at this other than Christopher Bell? I'll throw it to you first, James, on this one. Is it Bell's championship?
I still think Cole Custer is going to be a problem. I really do. We looked at it a little while ago, a few weeks back. I know Christopher Bell is kind of taking the mantle from everybody. But I'm not counting out Cole Custer. He's got to win here. He's having this is his career year. But I do think we're overlooking he's kind of the dark horse, but he's not. Tyler Reddick. He leads the series in top 5s, 23 out of 32 races, top 5s. He also leads the series in top 10s, and his average finish is almost 3 places better than anybody else in the series. I don't know if we can just give it to Christopher Bell, although he's got the best equipment probably out of this group with that Joe Gibbs Racing horsepower. But my pick, I think I'm going to go with Cole Custer here. I just have a feeling about it. It's tight though. This is a tough one. This is a tough grouping. Ben, what are you thinking on the Xfinity Series championship?
I'm going to give it to Christopher Bell just because I think he's been the best throughout the whole year, but I think Bell's going to have to actually win the race though, because if he doesn't win the race, Tyler Reddick's tenacious and he ain't going to give up.
Yeah.
He's not going to give up too easy. So I think Bell actually has to obviously has to win the race, because if leave it up to chance, I think Tyler Reddick could also get in there and get the job done as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's
James.
our defending champion, so he won the championship last year. I'm sorry.
Yep.
He was racing for a different team though.
Yes.
He's got a point to prove. This season for him compared to his championship year is so much better. He's really, people kind of said that championship didn't count or whatever they want to say last year was a fluke. No, not a fluke. This kid's really good.
He's proven at this season that it's not a fluke. I know I threw out Christopher Bell at the beginning, and I still believe it's Christopher Bell's championship to lose. I think if Christopher Bell doesn't win the championship, it's a huge disappointment. But I personally think it's going to be a huge disappointment on Saturday night, and I don't think Christopher Bell is going to get it. I think when you look at Homestead and you look at the track, I mean, the guy won it last year, or won the championship last year, because of how good he was at this track and this style of track in Tyler Reddick. And now he's more of a favorite this year to do it. So how does Reddick not get it done at Homestead? I think if we're talking any other track, then Christopher Bell's the guy. But I think Reddick's got it because of the track we're at. And then I thought, okay, probably Chicagoland maybe is the best comparison to Homestead right now. Chicagoland's really worn out. Homestead's worn out.
Yeah.
Kansas, yeah.
A little bit.
Chicagoland, Cole Custer kicked everybody's butt. So
yeah, he did.
Custer's got to. I mean, I think you're right. I think this is a really tough group. It's hard to say. It should be easy. It should be Christopher Bell without even thinking about it. But I don't think it's going to be. And we're all counting out Justin Allgaier, who just won his first race of the season this past weekend. But But he's been really good, and he's been there, and now he's broken through again. I don't know. It's hard to pick. I think overall I picked Tyler Reddick. I think Tyler Reddick's going to repeat. But any one of these guys would not surprise me in even the least bit. And none of them would even surprise me if they went out and dominated the thing and got the win.
Well,
so
I think the fact that we all picked the three different guys as
Right.
kind of our favorite. That tells you something right there about what we think going into this race. This may be the toughest one to pick out of all the championship rounds that we're going to see this weekend. This could be the closest one.
Well, that's a good transition, James, because I don't agree with you on that. I think there's a tougher one to pick this weekend, and I think that's the Cup Series race on Sunday. I believe that this is, and I'd have to look back and see who's all qualified for it, and I feel like we've said this before in this podcast, but I don't think it's ever been more true than today, than this year. This is the most competitive Final Four we've had in this format. I mean, all four of these guys are worthy. So I looked at the stats. I pulled them up as we were chatting here. Denny Hamlin has 6 wins on the season. Kyle Busch has 4. Kevin Harvick has 4. Martin Truex Jr. has 7. That is 21 of 35 races so far this season. That means 14 races, only 14 races this season has somebody other than one of these 4 drivers won. We had Kyle Busch point his way in, and I'm using air quotes right now. And yes, Kyle struggled through the playoffs this season, and he did get in on the fact that he had earned all these points throughout the season. But if you look at his stats on the playoffs, we talked about how bad he was, but bad was within the top 10 the entire play. He was there.
Bad for Kyle Busch, yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, he's on a losing streak right now. But again, losing streak that a lot of guys would like to be on. Jimmy Johnson would love his losing streak to be as small as Kyle Busch's losing streak is. It's tough to pick a winner here. I am going to divert again. I'll go last here, but Ben, start us out. Who do you think? I know who you're going to pick. You got a sentimental favorite.
You've got to.
Who are you going to pick for the championship for the Cup Series?
Well, I got a little bit of a twist for you, but I think Hamlin will win the race, but I don't think he's going to win in just crossing the finish line first. I just think he'll be the first one of the 4 to get past the line.
Okay.
But I do.
I like where he's going.
I haven't won the championship, but Blaney winning the actual race.
Interesting.
So,
why
I like the twist. That is a twist.
Why are you going for Blaney here?
I don't know. It just seems like the last couple races he's really been competitive. I think I have the stats right here, if I can find them real quick. But
we're good at filibustering.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I actually don't have him, but I just think Blaney, he's been in the top 10 the last 2, or I guess the 3 races before this one, and the one coming up. And I just feel like he has the speed to make that happen, which is why I'm picking him I guess why I've decided that this is going to be the way the final race of the year ends.
It's interesting. Blaney is, he is 8th, I believe. Yeah, 8th as far as average finish at Homestead. Of course, you can only look at these stats so much because it's a completely different package this year. We haven't run this package of this track yet, so anything can happen this weekend. We have no idea what to expect. But you're right. Blaney has definitely been on the upswing right now, and he's improving every week, and he's been in the running. Blaney's one of those guys that he'll top 5 you to death and do it so quietly that you'd never expect him to win, and then sneak. All of his wins have been, wins that he's snuck into. So,
sneaky. Yep.
Yeah, I think Blaney's not a bad pick to win the race. James, who do you got for Sunday? I know we're kind of doing our picks here too. I guess we won't officially do picks for this because we're kind of already throwing them out there. I threw us into this before we got into the news. So
yeah, Eric's driving the car off a cliff. That's okay. No,
as usual.
Championship weekend's a little different. We like to, there's so much to consume on championship weekend that we like to divert just a little bit. But I was looking at the stats really quick too, Eric, because I wanted to compare the last couple of years and who was in this championship round. And last year was pretty dang competitive too, but not quite this year. Remember we had that 3-headed monster last year that Joey Logano found a way to.
It wasn't one of the 3.
Yeah, and now we really do have. This really is kind of a 4-headed monster, going into this season now. Man, you're definitely right. I was wrong. This is the toughest championship round to pick with these drivers. They are so good. And you and I have been on Hamlin all season long. thinking that this was going to be the year for him. I still believe that, but Ben's got that pick, so I'm going to let him have it because that's his guy. So that's cool, man. I'm rooting for you in that sense because I'd love to see Denny Hamlin win a championship. I think he's due. I think he is a Hall of Famer, no doubt, but a championship would go a long way to his legacy. So I'll be pulling for him on Sunday. But with that being said, I think I'm going to pick Kevin Harvick to win this championship.
Interesting.
I think that he'll win the race and he'll win the championship. I think they're going to bring. This is just me kind of speculating, which I do a lot on this podcast. But the tension of having 3 cars in the final 4, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing in the week leading up to the championship. And Eric, I'll let you maybe comment on that as well. But Kevin Harvick kind of out here on an island. He's got all the support from Stewart-Haas going forward. I kind of like the fact that he's going to have probably the fastest car there. He's had one of the fastest cars. He's had the fastest car statistically all season. Shout out to David Smith on that one. But all the resources, everything going his way. He's got the Ford backing. So I'll say Kevin Harvick for the race and the championship.
All right. To comment on what you said, first of all, before I give my pick, I don't think it's a big deal that we've got 3 JGR cars in here. These guys, this team has been used to competing against itself for years. I don't personally think it's ever gotten in the way. I don't think that'll be a factor this weekend. I think you're going to see those guys run just like any other weekend. That being said, James, you said something earlier in the show toward the beginning that I think is going to prove itself to be true this weekend. So Denny Hamlin is historically a driver that has seen promising chances go up in smoke. It just seems to be kind of a theme for him. And you mentioned Mark Martin and Denny being okay being Mark Martin. They talked about on the broadcast this past weekend that Denny's team, oh no, it wasn't Denny's team. It was Truex's team that did that. But anyway, I think Denny's going to be preparing for this race and think this is it, and he's not going to get it done. I'm going to go with the guy who has had the better season. Denny Hamlin's had an excellent season. He's had a career season, but there's a guy that's had a better season than him, and that's Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. repeats this weekend and gets the championship, gets the race win and the championship. That's my pick.
Wow. Martin Truex. Well, man.
That being said, I only did that because I wanted to pick somebody different. Denny Hamlin's got the championship this weekend, guys. He's going to win it.
We all like Denny Hamlin on this podcast. It's really hard.
I want Denny to win it just because I want to see another new champion.
I do as well. It's really weird. We have a 75% chance going into this race that we're finally going to get another repeat champion, which we haven't had. We don't have 2-time champions. Eric, you and I were looking at this a while ago. You guys who win 2, it's pretty rare.
Mm-hmm.
So if Harvick, Truex, or Kyle Busch can do that, then fantastic. I mean, that would be huge for their legacies. But getting the 1 for Denny Hamlin, I mean, that would be monstrous for him. So, gosh, man, I don't know. My heart's with Hamlin this time around. I really want to see it get done. But yeah, we'll see. I think it's going to be these 4 guys up front all day.
I think so too.
I really do. I
take that back. I think there's going to be 3 of these guys up front. Somebody's going to make a stupid mistake early and count themselves out right away. First stage of the race, one of these guys has trouble and it's over.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I mean,
you could be right.
It's so easy to just. I mean, it's easy. Yeah, listen to me, but it's easy with this format now because we've had stage racing all season where you can't sit back. As long as you stay on the lead lap in this, you can sit back as one of these final 4 and race the last stage, and that's it. You know you've got the caution coming before the last stage. So as long as you stay on the lead lap, you can get yourself even with everybody and play the strategy game up to that point. So in theory, none of these guys should have trouble, but I think one of them does.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, we saw what happened in 2016, a late race restart, took out 2 really good race car drivers, ended Carl Edwards' career.
Yeah.
That was his year. I mean, that was his one. He was kind of in the Denny Hamlin spot, right? That was it. He was going to get it. He led the whole race, and then he was not good at restarts all season that season, and he got took on one, and it cost him.
Let me give
but
you a
I don't see-
scenario here. These 4 drivers, top 4, final restart, green white checker with this aero package at Homestead. Can you imagine?
Who you got, Ben? Who you got in that instance? Let's say let's do that. Let's say it's these 4 final restart. Who pulls out? Who pulls it out?
Oh, this is painful, but I'd have to go with Kyle Busch, only because
Yeah.
his pit crew's been the best all year, and I wouldn't want to put it in the hands of them, because if they put it in their hands, it's pretty much over at that point.
I gotta agree. You got the most aggressive
Yeah.
guy here. Has got to be Kyle Busch. He's got to be
He's
the
the
one that
best
goes for
restarter.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the best restarter. That's
And
for
Hamlin's
sure.
not good on restarts generally. So
not great. Hamlin, one thing Hamlin has done this season though is he's definitely cleaned up his act on pit road.
Yeah.
That's I think been a part of some
they
of his
adjusted that
resurgence.
speedometer on his car.
That's it. Yeah, they got the cruise control figured out finally. So yeah, we've, however this plays out, there's different scenarios where this could work out for all of these guys in many different ways. If it's a long green flag stretch, I mean, I think that plays into Kevin Harvick and Martin Truex Jr.'s hands. If Denny Hamlin gets out in clean air, he's been proven to be very good in many different situations this year. I think Kyle Busch is probably the least likely to win this thing,
I
which
think
is
so.
weird.
Yeah.
Very weird, but I mean, gosh, this is why I love this format. We've got so many things that could happen here. Pins and needles. It's gonna be fantastic.
Agreed. Since we screwed the format up, let's just continue on and give our dark horse picks for Homestead. Ben, we gave you first pick since you're the guest here. Who's your dark horse pick for Homestead this weekend?
I'm going to have to go with Kyle Larson on this one, because this track is set up perfectly for him.
All
In
right.
terms
Pick.
of he can
He's
run the
not-
top.
Right,
and all
he's
that.
never won here. Yeah, never won here. But he's been very good. So yeah, I think he will be tough.
Yeah.
If he's got a fast car,
Agreed.
for sure.
I am going to say, I'm going to go Daniel Suarez. I say Suarez goes out with a bang at the end of the season, gets himself a win, and gets to announce in victory lane his contract extension for next season.
Yeah, if he could pull that off, he might finally get it done.
There you go.
I'm doing this one. This is more for laughs, Eric. So be ready. It's his final race. I'll say Paul Menard goes out on top and gets the win at Homestead.
Nice. That would be kind of cool. I mean,
Wouldn't that be something?
you would be excited. I mean, happy about that, right? I mean, I know you're not a fan, but it'd be cool
I'd love it. Yeah.
to see somebody go
We didn't
out
pick
with a
Matt
win.
Benedetto. He's
Yeah,
been
I
our
know.
dark horse all year.
I know, right?
Yeah.
He'll win it now.
Yeah, probably. I wanted to say I have picked the last 2 race winners.
Yeah.
Just for the record. I don't know if that's ever happened to me before, so I'm very excited about that.
Next season
So I
we
don't
got
know if
to
that's-
actually keep track of that.
We might have to.
We both really
might have
actually suck at picking race winners.
We do. The fact that I got 2 in a row, I was like, wow, I did it.
Like-
I got a winning streak going.
Like, some people listen to this thing and consider us experts. I don't know who they are, but some people do. And like, we haven't picked race winners right. We both are sucking in the fantasy league. I mean, don't listen to us.
I blame the fantasy league on being a dad part-time as well, because part of the reason I'm not a part-time dad. Geez, that didn't sound good. Because I was all set to get Chase Elliott out of my lineup and sub him in for Kevin Harvick, and I never made that change because I
Yeah.
was busy doing dad stuff. So
I haven't picked
Man.
drivers the last 3 weeks, so
ugh.
I think I'm still running on Talladega numbers or teams.
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple news items to get to. Not a whole lot in the news this week, which you'd expect leading into championship weekend. But we had a long discussion last week about Bubba Wallace and his intentional, unintentional spin at Texas Motor Speedway. And turns out Bubba likes to run his mouth and decided to tell Dustin Long that he did it on purpose and what do you expect. And if NASCAR is not going to do anything, he's going to continue to do it on purpose. And guess what? NASCAR did something about it.
Incredible.
Yeah, he gets a fine. I think he lost points too, didn't he?
Yeah, he lost. What was it? 50
Yeah,
points.
that's a pretty big deal. I mean, for
That's a big
Bubba,
one. Yeah.
it is. This team's
50 grand too for
Yeah.
him. That's a big hit.
So NASCAR get this right?
Yes, they did, because you can, man, yeah, I don't know. You can steal the pie, have the pie all over your face, clean it up, and get away with it, but you can't then say I stole the pie
Yeah.
because you're gonna get busted. I don't know.
NASCAR
Ben,
doesn't
what
believe in
did-
a statute of limitations, that's for sure.
Well, they had to nail him.
Yeah.
I just think they did. Yeah, I was surprised he did. I guess I'm surprised and not surprised. Bubba's kind of he's out there a little bit, but Ben, what did you think about that penalty? Because the whole thing caught me off guard. The comments caught me off guard, and then I was kind of surprised that they did penalize him afterwards.
Oh, my thoughts on it. I just thought the penalty that was handed out was a little bit excessive, but I can see why NASCAR did it. It just seemed like to me that it's not really the driver's place to bring out a caution just for personal reasons, I guess, or I guess in order to change the outcome of the race.
Yeah. Well, that's
But
what he
I
said.
think
He
what-
did it for him. That's
what I think
that's what he was
made it-
saying.
Was worse was, like Eric said, that he admitted that he did it, and I guess NASCAR felt disrespected, and they wanted to make an example out of Bubba, that won't be tolerated within the
that's-
race.
yeah.
You know,
I agree with that.
there
That's
was-
exactly what happened.
there were a lot of people that were upset that his penalty was so much less than Dale Jr.'s when Dale Jr. did at Bristol, but at the same time,
different.
this is a playoff race. Bubba's not in the playoff battle, not even close. And that was 2004, guys. That was a long
That's a
time
long
ago.
time ago. 50
Times
years
changed,
ago, man.
and it was a completely different point system back then. So
Right.
you can't compare the two. And even if you can compare the two, it's still a different season. NASCAR is going to make the decision that they feel is right. I have no problem with it. You know, if you're going to blatantly say you did it, if you're going to admit to the crime, then you're going to get penalized. Period. Doesn't matter how late you do it. You know, I mean,
Right.
wait till after the season's over at least and say it. Then you can say it. And then what's NASCAR going to do? But
Yeah, I felt like that monetary fine was a little excessive, but that's just me also saying that because it's Richard Petty Motorsports and Bubba Wallace. Like if that penalty was handed out, let's say it was Chase Elliott that did the same thing,
right.
I would not have found the penalty excessive. I think it's a precedent setter, kind of like what Ben was saying. This is it's not going to be tolerated, you know.
Yeah, the thing is I don't know. It's just I completely just lost my train of thought. I did a normal thing there. Just lost where I was going.
Yeah, Ben. Ben knows this is a normal thing on the podcast. We lose our train of thought. We tail off.
Yeah.
It's par for the course.
I had a great thought. It was a really, really good one, and it's gone. So we'll move on. Other news item, which we slipped in here right before the show started. Ben, I don't think we briefed you on this. There was news today that Nashville Fairgrounds has terminated its contract with racetrack operator Formosa Productions, who was the promoter at Nashville Speedway. The Facebook group that I saw this in today is a Retired Racetracks Facebook group, and they immediately were adding Nashville Fairgrounds to the list of retired racetracks. I don't see that in this news. In my opinion, this is just, it's an issue with the track promoter. They've now given that track promoter the boot. They're not saying there will no longer be racing there. And as a matter of fact, the article I read, which was from a TV station, specifically said that they were still looking at promoters for this. And in my opinion, I think this is an easier step for SMI to come in and take control of this track and do what they want to do with it. What do you guys think? James, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I know that Bristol Motor Speedway has been helping them out. So I think the blueprint's right there. This is just kind of more of a business decision, I think. You know,
Yeah.
The guy owed him money and wasn't paying it up. I am still hopeful that we will get Nashville some top, one of our top 3 series here sooner rather than later. I don't think this is not the end by any means. I think some NASCAR fans got the message wrong here.
Yeah.
But Ben, I know we didn't brief you too much on the news, but any thoughts there on this one?
Oh, I don't know much about the article, but I do think NASCAR would benefit from adding a new track to the schedule, because I know the schedule next year is a little bit different, but I think I think they're looking for a new track that nobody's really seen in NASCAR, and I think Nashville Fairground racetrack would actually be a pretty cool one to experiment with.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah. It's your
it's
cross
on the
between
radar.
Bristol and North Wilkesboro. I mean, really, as far as the
Yeah.
style of track, it really fits kind of both those categories. So it'd be pretty neat to have
Yeah.
that back on the schedule.
And we've got Dale Jr. kind of banging the drum on it too. So as long as Dale Jr.'s behind it,
Yep.
I think we have some positive momentum to hopefully get something within the next couple of years.
Completely agree. With that's what we got for news this week, guys. Not a whole lot. Like I said, going into Homestead, we'll have probably a ton of news after next week with drivers making final decisions and contracts being signed and announcements coming and all that. We've already seen a lot of the silly season dominoes fall. There's still a couple more left to go, but we'll see what happens over the next week or so. With that, James, is it worth talking about Fantasy League?
Somehow I beat you this week. It
Yeah.
wasn't pretty. Actually, yeah, it is worth talking about because it all comes down to Homestead. It is a 20-point gap between first and second. After all that,
That's awesome.
almost 6,000 points at the top of the list. Ranger Running and Justin 713. Nobody else really matters. Freight Train does have a shot. He's way back there. He's about 100 points behind. About 100 points behind Ranger, a little bit more than that. So he's got a puncher's chance. But it is a dogfight. So Ranger versus Justin. They swapped the overall lead a couple weeks ago. Ranger's got it back. And that's it. I pretty much have locked up that I've beat you. It's not pretty though. We're at the bottom. And we have Scoters in last. And then for the bracket challenge, it comes down to it's between three of us. It's me, our good buddy Todd, and Steve. It looks like if Denny Hamlin wins the championship, it's going to be me. If I don't have the sheet in front of me, but I believe if Kevin Harvick wins the championship, Steve, who entered our bracket pool, will get the win. So, and then Todd does have a chance as well. That I believe me and Todd could tie if I'm remembering correctly. That's exactly how it goes. But again, don't have the sheets in front of me because I'm super prepared for the podcast.
So you and Todd could tie. In other words, Todd chose Denny Hamlin, or no?
I believe that's. Yeah, yep. He has Denny Hamlin.
So you make this big deal about how if Denny Hamlin wins, you win, and then you say, "Oh, by the way, Todd and I could tie."
Todd and I could tie. I believe that's how it works.
You're really kind of slamming Todd a little bit there.
No,
he's not as important as you, huh?
No, he's more important than I am. He's more vital to this operation than I am.
It's okay. Todd's been big timing us, so we don't need to.
That's right. That's right. He is big time now.
Exactly. Shout outs. Do you guys got any shout outs this week? James, go ahead. Any shout outs?
I think I am good. I don't have any fun Instagram follows. I haven't seen anything lately. But I'll throw it to Ben. Ben, do you have anybody who listens that you want to shout out?
Well, I don't have particularly anybody that I want to shout out to, but I'd like to do a shout out to NBC for their Veterans Day weekend race broadcast. I thought it was really well done, and I feel like we could never repay them for what they do to keep us safe and allow us to enjoy NASCAR. So I kind of thought them tying that in with the race yesterday was really, really cool.
That might be the best shout out we've ever had on the podcast.
It might be, and he's
really good.
Ben's gonna trigger a little rant from me. Because him mentioning
far away,
him mentioning how nice of a job NBC did reminds me: is there any possible way that, like, what do we have to do? Who do we have to get on board to get the Truck Series away from Fox? Because my God, is there possibly a worse way to cover a series than this network is covering this series? They don't send their announcers to the track most of the time anymore. And this weekend, they went to frickin' commercial break with 8 laps to go in a stage and came back for the last 2. Like, the best part of a stage is the last 10 laps of a stage, and you went to commercial.
Yeah, they're really bongling it at this point. They're definitely saving some cost. That's for sure.
And it's, I listening to Dale Jr. talk about Rick Allen and stuff, it makes it tougher to be critical on these guys because I know it's a really tough job, but I just want
Gotta be
somebody
at the
other than
track.
Vince Welch in there.
Well, you just got to be at the track. I think that's more important than
Yeah.
anything. Get the guys at the track. I mean, Alan Bestwick's still out there. I don't know
Right.
why he doesn't have a job.
It's just like the camera work is garbage. It's like they have a second-rate crew on this. And it's not like that. There's definitely issues during the Cup schedule with Fox, but Fox puts the work in during the Cup schedule. During the Truck Series portion, they just don't care, and it's obvious.
Well, and Ben brought. I was just gonna say Ben brought up a great point. Not only would the NBC do a great job with the Veterans Day stuff, but they just have a professionalism. There's no goofy antics or any of that stuff. They just bring a professional setting every week,
But it's
and
not-
it makes you feel like you're watching a major sport.
It's not too professional though. You got you have your buddies talking in the booth. You got Dale Jr. he's us talking in the booth, and that puts it on our level without dumbing it down like Fox does.
Right.
I think NBC's the only thing that, again, I don't want to hate on Rick Allen, but the only thing I think that NBC could do better possibly is to have someone like Bestwick in the booth. But I don't know. I don't think Bestwick would work with these guys in the way that they're doing either. I mean, Rick definitely works with these guys well with the type of broadcast they do. And I don't know that anybody else could do that. I think Bestwick almost would be too professional.
Maybe.
He's got that MRN radio style, which, if you actually know anything about the MRN guys, isn't professional at all. But their broadcast sounds professional. So I don't know. Maybe there's not a better option. Maybe I should quit hating on Rick Allen and just say that we've got it pretty good with NBC. There's nothing to fix. Let's just not fix what's not broken.
Did you use your shout out to get a shot in at Rick Allen?
No, I didn't. I actually didn't use my shout out yet, but I do not have a specific shout out this week. Mostly because I've only started listening to the Dale Jr. download this week, and it's Kenny Wallace on, and I have not listened to the Kenny Wallace portion yet, but I'm sure it will be spectacular.
We have to rename the shout out section to the Dale Jr. download memorial shout out or something. We gotta get something on there. It's Eric loves the Dale Jr. download.
I've just become such a fan of Dale Jr. post racing career. I think he and I just like the same stuff, and I like it.
Ben, are you a football fan too? Do you watch NFL every Sunday as well
I
as
am
NASCAR?
a football fan, Steeler fan.
All right.
Ugh.
Oh no, I didn't know that. I wouldn't have put you on the podcast. Good thing you told me right at the end. I know. I'm only kidding. By the way, the Steelers are fine. It's a fine organization. They're much better than the Lions.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what team do you cheer for, James?
I hate watch the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
So
who beat the Lions this week? I mean, not that it's anything to be proud of, but
I mean, Stafford didn't play. Easy.
Yeah, but the Bears won, right?
It doesn't matter.
The
Listen,
Bears?
man, as a Lions fan, yes, the Bears won. But as a Lions fan, I have lived my entire life watching football down 7 with 2 minutes to go. My team is always down 7 with 2 minutes to go. It's just the way it always has been. Doesn't matter if Stafford's playing or if I was out there quarterbacking. We'd be down 7 with 2 minutes to go. My point was, thank you guys. That was my fault, by the way. My point being, Dale Jr. has done this like Tony Romo thing. Tony Romo, he was a popular quarterback, not the most liked guy, but you put him in the booth and he's doing some other stuff, and all of a sudden people love Tony Romo on NFL Sundays. And Dale Jr. is doing kind of the same thing in his media adventures. He is really fun to listen to, and he's really smart. And he has a way with the fans, and it's worked out very well for him.
The only difference, though, James, is that everybody except you like Dale Jr. prior to.
Like Dale Jr. just fine.
So, I mean, he was plenty popular while he was still a driver as well. Obviously, most popular driver
True,
how many
yes.
years in a row. But I get what you're saying. I think he has definitely gone up a notch in most people's books as a broadcaster, which is pretty cool.
That's what I was.
He definitely is, in my opinion, better as a broadcaster than he was as a driver. Not to say, I mean, we've joked about Junior and his qualifications as a driver and whatnot. His stats are nothing to slouch about. But he's a better broadcaster than a driver for sure.
Ooh, he's got 2 Daytona 500. That's
true.
a big That's a big leap.
Yeah.
Well, he's got time. He's got plenty of time.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, I've never quite given Junior the credit for the stats that he has, I guess. I've always kind of viewed him as, I think I've done like a lot of people have done with Junior and viewed him in the shadow of his dad. And, his stats don't match up to his dad's. But in that aspect, it does, because he's got more Daytona 500 wins than his dad does. So there you go. I'll just shut up now.
There you go. Ben, do you get into the nerddom that is announcing like Eric and I do? Eric and I get into the nitty-gritty stuff sometimes.
I actually love announcing. I actually wanted to do that in school or when I went to college, but I kind of got into writing more. But I'm a
Nice.
nerd with the broadcasting.
He did the same thing we did, Eric. We
Yeah.
liked the announcing side of things, then we just tried our hand at writing. Some of us more successful than others. I'll leave it at that. So,
Hey, I don't write anymore either, so I just read stuff and edit
that's
other
true.
people's
Yeah,
stuff.
you're just the boss now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else to hit on before we head on out of here and move on to Homestead and Championship weekend?
Well, I'll throw it to Ben. Ben, what would you like to? Is there anything you want to cover that we didn't go over before we close it out?
I think we did a pretty good job of covering it all. But I'd like to thank you two for allowing me to be a part of this podcast here tonight, though.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming on. And anything? How was it? I mean, did we treat you all right? Did you have fun?
I survived, and I thought I really enjoyed myself doing this podcast.
Cool. Good.
That's awesome. That's great to hear, man. Well, we thank you for being a follower of ours and being a patron. And I mean, the fact that you reached out to us is kind of a big thrill for us too. So we were glad to get to know you a little bit and have you on.
There you go. With that, we go to Homestead Miami Speedway this weekend, Ford Championship weekend. Before we do that, let's hit on social media. Ben, you got a social media handle that you like that you're at? You want people to hit you up on?
I forgot. That's BergFan60, I believe. But you just type in my name, Ben Latrario, and you can find me on Twitter. But other than that, I mean, I don't really have anything else.
Perfect.
Social media wise.
All right, James, where can they find you?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. For more of the podcast, you can visit us at our website at thesuperspeedway.com. You can find the podcast on there. Show notes, show notes, links to all the articles that we've talked about on the podcast, past articles from races, coverage, and whatnot. You can find all the podcasts on there, so check that out, thesuperspeedway.com. You can find us on Apple Music, Google Play, and SoundCloud, wherever you found us today. We hope you subscribe and continue to listen. And if you want to become a part of the show, you want to come on the show like Ben did this week, become a patron at patreon.com/thesuperspeedway. We head this weekend to Homestead Miami Speedway, the final Ford Championship weekend. We crowned 3 champions this weekend. We'll be back next week to discuss it and break down the 2019 season. It's hard to believe it's already almost over. We'll be back next week. Until then, everybody, let's go racing.